That shield represents a lot of things to a lot of people.
While the influences travel back to ancient mythology, the superhero as we know it began in 1938 with the debut of Superman in Action Comics number 1. The success of that character resulted in the creation of countless other costumed crusaders. Through films, television shows, and video games, the superhero has become the dominant force in entertainment. Disney, Warner Brothers, and Sony prioritize their superhero IP over almost anything else. It's strange to think about why I love superheroes, because I always have. I didn't even think about it. It feels instinctual. I was born in the mid-90s, so I was a kid at the perfect time for superheroes. I vividly remember the first X-Men and Spider-Man movies coming out. There was a ton of great animation at the time, as well as reruns of Super Friends and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Batman was my favorite as a kid. I had the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher movies on tape and watched them all the time. And I loved the 66 show with Adam West. I remember TV Land showed a marathon every Monday that I always watched, and when I started school, my mom would record them on tape. My relationship with superheroes changed right after I graduated high school and got my first job. I had my own money and started buying and reading comic books, and I did that because of Superman and Green Arrow. I never watched anything Superman as a kid outside of Super Friends and the Justice League cartoons. I had zero interest. In the lead up to Man of Steel, I watched every live-action Superman movie and all 10 seasons of Smallville, as well as sampling Lois and Clark. When Man of Steel was released, my local comic book store, Prairie Dog Comics, ran a promotion where I could bring in my ticket and get a couple of free Superman comics, which included the first issue of All-Star Superman. This also would have been right after the first season of Arrow ended, which I absolutely loved, so I decided to get a Green Arrow comic. Jeff Lemire and Andre Sorrentino's run had just started a few months prior, so I bought the latest issue at the time and it blew my mind. I went back and bought all the previous issues and started buying Green Arrow every month, and I fell down the rabbit hole. I thought, I love Barbara Gordon, so I started reading Gail Simone's Batgirl. From there, my pull list just grew and grew, and I started going back to read the old stuff as well. I just fell in love with the medium and the style. Sadly, I fell out of love after a few years. The inherent issues with the medium really started to bother me, mostly the overuse of crossover event comics and the refusal to allow these characters to grow and change. The whole thing with Tom King's Batman-Catwoman wedding really ticked me off. I should have known better, but it was such a good idea, so when it didn't happen, and didn't happen for very stupid reasons, I pretty much gave up. I canceled my entire pull list. I still read comics, I have the DC Universe app, but it's all old stuff. So why do we love superheroes? The easiest answer is good storytelling regardless of whether a character is wearing tights or not. These superheroes are compelling characters with imaginative worlds, and because superheroes are not a genre, but a character archetype, they can be put into a variety of different kinds of movies. You can have crime dramas like The Dark Knight, science fiction time travel epics like X-Men Days of Future Past, and heist comedies like Ant-Man.
Symbols are nothing without the women and men that give them meaning.
The next major element is that most, if not all, superheroes are Mary Sues. That term has taken on a very strange connotation and is basically meaningless now. Thanks, Max. The term gets thrown at any female character that breathes nowadays. For anyone unaware, Mary Sue is a fanfiction term. It refers to a self-insert character that is unrealistically flawless by the rules of whatever universe the story is taking place in. It started to gain popularity in the discourse when a hack writer incorrectly applied it to Rey of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. What's funny about that to me is that all of the people that, again, incorrectly use that term as if it's the worst thing in the world. Like, when the people that don't like those movies start blabbing on about how they ruined their lives or whatever, that's always one of the first things they say. And the irony is, their walls are usually covered in superhero posters. Because, let's be real, Superman and Batman are the biggest Mary Sues in popular fiction ever, followed very closely by Luke Skywalker, but that's a whole other conversation. The creation of superheroes stems entirely from self-insert wish fulfillment. Superman's secret identity is a shy dork because that's who the creators were. Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel were very meek guys that girls didn't pay attention to. The inspiration for the character was the idea of, what if underneath the glasses and the shyness, I was really something spectacular and special? And that connected with the audience. Bob Kane desperately wanted to be Batman. From all accounts, he lived his life like he was Bruce Wayne. It was his ultimate fantasy. Captain America punches Hitler because that's what Jack Kirby and Joe Simon wanted to do. The Mary Sue label might not be entirely accurate once the Silver Age happens. Stan Lee's creations at Marvel in the 60s reinvented the superhero. He gave them everyday problems and flaws. It drastically changed comic books, and that is the core reason people tend to prefer Marvel. But the base appeal of wish fulfillment is still there to this day. These are characters that can do the things we can't, but desperately want to. We can very easily put ourselves in their shoes and relate to them. People relate to Superman because he's an immigrant. When I see people that love Zack Snyder's take on Superman, that is always the very first thing they say. Which is why diversity is so important. I don't think there are words that can describe how helpful and useful it is for kids to see themselves as these superheroes, the morality they can learn. And it sucks when there are so few women and people of color. There's a reason the Wonder Woman, Black Panther, and Captain Marvel films took the country and world by storm the way that they did. And now that films with diverse leads have made billions of dollars for these corporations, they're starting to do the right thing.
Hope, help, and compassion for all. That's what I stand for.
The final point is that superheroes are symbols, literally. This S means something, and different things to different people, whether it's an ideal to strive towards, hope, or a reminder to never stop fighting. There was a BBC article about how superheroes don't matter anymore. It was mostly just a puff piece for the boys, but in it, the author states that he can't possibly understand why people look up to Tony Stark because that character is an egotistical buffoon. His words, not mine. And because it's a story of redemption, Tony fails, but always tries to be better and do better, and ultimately, he sacrifices himself for the world. That's why people are inspired by the symbol of Iron Man. You buffoon.
We are an unusual couple, you know.
Oh, I don't think that was ever in question.
I think a great example of why superheroes matter is this show. It's a powerful story about grief and loss, a touching tribute to television and the people you watch television with, as well as being an exciting Marvel action movie. These stories can touch people around the world in a very real way. Wanda's pain and how she deals with it is so relatable. Everyone at one point has fantasized about being in a fictional world and interacting with your favorite characters or favorite character archetypes. The Marvel world is so creative and over the top that it can do things like have the lead character physically manifest and act out her sitcom fanfiction. That's fun, but also really emotionally resonant. Superheroes matter because fiction matters. Stories matter. Through storytelling, we can confront our demons, find community, and be inspired. Superheroes allow us to do all that in the most over-the-top way while dressed like a bat.
Just like a bat. I dig it.
Also, this S is for Supergirl because she's better.